This is the Anything But Banker to Broker podcast. We're going to be talking to some of the industry's best and brightest about the unique pathways they took before stepping into broking and how it set them up for success. Thanks for listening. Thanks everyone for jumping on and joining us. Today we've got Jimmy Shepherd, who is known as my brother, my twin, my brother. We do the Spider-Man meme with each other. So Jimmy's background, essentially, he's always worked in franchising. He's also been a restaurant manager as well. And he was very adamant after studying a risk and management, I think it was, course, that he did not want to become a banker. Anyway, he's done very well for himself in not doing that. Otherwise, he won't be sat here with us today. So nice to have you on, mate. How are you getting on?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Joe. And thanks for having me, mate. And always a pleasure to be your stunt double. It happened to me the other day, actually, where someone said, "Hello, Joe." And I said, "Oh, I'm Jimmy." So luckily we're good people.
Yeah. I mean, no one will ever notice that there's just one slight letter different, but we'll get there.
And a slight different accent.
Slight different accent. Yeah, I mean, I won't try and do that on this podcast today. We'll save that for the beers when we catch up. Mate, so fill me in as well, right? Like, so I've obviously given a very brief overview there, but like, if you want to give me a bit more of an in-depth one, what was that transition like to bring you up to what you're doing today?
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. So the hospitality journey, I sort of fell into it, to be honest with you. It was a younger job when I was 15. Went into that when I first moved from South Africa to Australia as a 15-year-old. And the only job I could get, Joe, believe it or not, was Hungry Jack's in the city, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that was my shift.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yep, just get it done. So that was quite an eye-opener, especially being a young man from South Africa and heading into the city in Melbourne overnight. But at the end of the day, it gave me the drive, the work ethic, and taught me the value of holding down a job, which was good. Fortunately for me, I was able to land a job at Nando's about 12 months later, which was through a friend, which gave me more friendly hours close to my house and a pay rise as well. So it was a triple double tick or double triple tick, which then I just evolved from there, mate. The financial risk management course was straight out of school. I did that as a degree through Victoria University in Footscray. It was nothing what I expected. It was very analytical, very detailed, very risk management, and very heading towards a path I wasn't really comfortable with. I didn't really want to be stuck behind a desk and analyzing stocks and trades and that sort of stuff. So it was more the tying to a desk and being ruthless and corporate I didn't really like, which was my impression and where I was heading. So I took a gap year. I did a bit of traveling. I went to Nando's more full time and grew from there, mate. So yeah, and a long journey with Nando's over about 17 years.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, pre-moving to Australia, what was life like then? Like, you obviously grew up in South Africa. I can't remember where it was. I'm going to say it was Pretoria, but I don't think it was.
No, not Pretoria.
Was it Durban? It was Durban.
There is a Durban in there.
Yeah, there is a Durban in there.
So history repeats itself in a weird way, Joe. So my dad ran a company with his uncle called Shepherd & Shepherd, which I've spoken to you about many times. He opened an office in Cape Town. So when he relocated to Cape Town, I was born. So I was born in Cape Town. He opened that office and moved back to Durban. So I grew up in Durban. The reason I say history repeats itself is that when we moved to Adelaide, we had our first daughter. So she had Adelaide and then came back to Melbourne. So it's interesting how those things work out. When I was 15, we relocated to Australia with my dad, my stepmom, and my younger sister, and then grew up in Melbourne from there. So yeah, had a nice spread across that.
Yeah, and I think like those years in 15 to 20, like I think you do the most growing as a person there, right? So like that's why I was always consider you as growing up in Australia, because you've been through those trials and tribulations that set you up for the rest of your life in that sort of period of time. Yeah. And there's a lot that's happened in between then and now. So talk to me about Nando's. Like, you obviously, and look, I'm very passionate about Nando's. We've talked about it growing up in the UK. Couldn't move for at least having 2 Nando's every week, most weeks, to be honest. And I was lucky to have friends that worked there as well. But what was your journey there? So you ended up owning a few stores yourself and then transitioned into a franchise role. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So Joe, I left home at a young age. I left home just after 20. And when that happened, I needed to get a few more hours at Nando's and take it a bit more seriously. I was fortunate enough that I was able to get that, so I could pay my rent and do all that sort of stuff. And the national operations manager of Nando's at the time actually bought the restaurant that I was working at, which allowed me to be, I suppose, mentored and grow under his leadership. His name was Victor Milne, and he's a great man, and he spent a lot of time and effort on me, and developed me into the qualities that I think I'm hopefully with respect to today. And with that, when Victor sold the store on to another franchisee, to the Kadawija family, I was fortunate enough to be part of that process, and I purchased a small percentage share in that one restaurant. So that's where my first dabble into entrepreneurship and ownership started.
I remember reading about that transition period from the operations manager by the store, and you said basically like I realized two things: I had to shape up or ship out, and it was like luckily because he was known for being a good worker, right, and getting the best out of the stores and lifting the output. So you noticed like I need to shape up and ship out, or
100%, mate. And he was the godfather of Nando's. You know, I mean, he wrote the operations manual. He knew the procedures. He knew everything back like the back of his hand. So he was the backbone of that business. And him coming in, it has to be run by the book, it had to be done by the book, and it had to be done to the right standard. So it really was a extremely good mentorship, and as you said, a baptism by fire on the grill and off the grill. So it was pretty intense. But from that, as I said, gave me the opportunity to have a share ownership in that restaurant, which we were able to really grow exponentially over a couple of years and allow that business to exceed all expectations, win a couple of national awards and things like that, which really gave me the taste for what could be achieved. With that came a crazy idea where I think I've said to you before, Joe, when we've caught up, I'm not too sure where it came from, but I had this dream that I wanted to own 5 restaurants. I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't even know why it was number 5, but it was. And I booked a meeting with the managing director of Nando's Australia at the time, Norman Picker, and he took the meeting. So thankfully he did that. And I told him my idea, and instead of laughing at me and telling me to go my way, he entertained it and said, "You can do it, but if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it outside of Melbourne," which I wasn't really ready for, but I was also excited about and also a bit nervous, a bit of that mixed emotions. And the options were, from memory, was Sydney, Adelaide, Canberra, New Zealand, or Fiji. So quite a spread there.
I know where I'd have been choosing.
Fiji, yeah, yeah. But the good news is that my girlfriend at the time, who became my fiance and now my wife, and obviously mother of my children, came with me on these trips, and we literally just went to each place, explored it, tried to do our due diligence as best we could, and did the old butcher's paper, pros and cons, etc. Some very good trips, some great Nando's feasts, Joe. You'd be pleased to know. So we made sure we tried all the different places, and we eventually decided on Adelaide. So Adelaide was close to Melbourne, 30-minute difference, great place, beautiful beaches, and just really, really, really nice people and good opportunities. So we relocated over there. We got married. I moved there first. So I moved there by myself. So we got, it's not really the best way to do it, Joe, but got married, had a honeymoon, and then I moved to Adelaide for 6 months and she stayed here. So anyway, it was a bit roundabout by that way, but we wouldn't change it for the world. I went over there with a couple of business partners who I had share ownership with. So I allowed them to basically buy into shares based on what my experience was with the first restaurant, to try to give other people opportunities. Because one reason I knew it worked, because it means that you got skin in the game and opportunity, and two, I didn't want to be just by myself. So it was a bit of that sort of stuff too. And we relocated to Adelaide. I was there for 6 years, Joe. As I said, I think a few times to you, the bank owned them and we paid the bank. There was quite a large loan facility on those, but we had a lot of fun, a lot of experiences. Through that transition, there was one franchisee already in Adelaide, so we purchased the restaurant off them and then took the other restaurants and purchased them off Nando's Australia itself. So we had 5 restaurants that we owned and operated, and 2 that were corporately owned. And I operated as a master franchisor, and as a head office. So it was pretty much like a dual role running that business in that region.
Yeah. And I always said to you as well, like going back to you want to own 5 restaurants. Like I've always said I'd like to own a McDonald's, right? And It's funny because I do think it is poison, to be fair. Like we all love a Macca's though. We can't deny we all love a Macca's when needed. But I think it's one of them because it's such an iconic brand that I always think, it'd be nice to drive down the road and say that's mine. And another one as well is like I'd like to own a little cafe, like just to have a little cafe that is mine. You know, benefits of it, free coffee, somewhere for the kids to kind of go and have when they get a bit older to work in. But I've always been told, I don't know if this is your experience, and maybe you live in the scars and having that experience. That I was told, yeah, don't touch hospitality. It's a bit of a hard one. Is that fair to say?
It's a hard game, Joe. It's a hard game to make money in. It's definitely a young person's sport. Think about it when people are having long weekends, public holidays, night times, enjoying themselves. That's when you get busy, and that's when you got to be on show. And for whatever reason, Murphy's law: if something's going to go wrong, it'll go wrong on a long weekend when it costs more to fix. So it's just one of those things. But it's definitely, I wouldn't change it for the world because it taught me a lot, and it's where I met my wife as well. So there's a bit of a history there. A lot of really good friends too that I still keep in contact with now. So a young man's sport or young lady's sport, and hard to make money, but definitely very good fun when you can get to it.
Yeah, man. Now, before we talk about the transition into finance, I want to talk about what thing did you learn from either being a business owner or working and being did they call you Nandokas at that time? I think that's a
And
new one. That's
no. Nandokas is a thing. It definitely is
Nandokas,
a
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Nandokas.
what was your biggest learn from doing that? That's translated into what you're doing today.
So the hospitality and franchise space teach you a lot of discipline, Joe. A lot of discipline around margins, stock control. You're dealing with perishables. You can make one mistake and cost you a lot of money. But if a customer doesn't come back to you, you don't get a discharge notice. You got to really, really make sure that you look after people and give them a reason to come back. You're dealing with young staff. You're dealing with different cultures and different personalities. So it teaches you a lot around managing people from all angles and also discipline of business, and trying to make sure that you control your costs, your margins, and your people.
Yeah, and look, in my early days of recruitment, I would only ever go and target people from retail, supermarkets, hospital, right? Because the skills that they needed for the job that they were going into, which was your entry level banking roles, all they needed was that exposure to diverse people, right? And understanding to, read people, different emotions and being able to kind of work with people like that. So I think if anything, like that is the best training ground. And that's what I really love about this country, to be honest. Like, it's funny, I spoke to my brother and sister back home and I said to them, why don't you go and get a job in McDonald's? And they laughed at me. I went, oh, I don't want to go and work there, not in McDonald's. And I look at this country and, you get kids working 15, 16 in McDonald's all the way up until they're 21, until they go to uni. And it sets them up really, really, and gives them discipline for the rest of their life. So um, now pivoting into finance, right? Because you'd learned so much there that is completely applicable to the role that you ended up doing at Aussie. Um, and you've told me about it, but for everyone listening, like what was you were sat there applying for jobs basically, but tell me about how it went from your end.
Yeah, I suppose so. So just to touch back on what I said before around my eldest daughter being born in Adelaide, Joe. So we had a great time in Adelaide, great experience, good businesses, good lifestyle, but the family element was suffering. To be completely frank, our daughter was getting a bit older. All our family connections, childhood friends, etc., in Melbourne, and we decided as a family unit that we were going to move back to Melbourne. So that's where it happened from there. Jackie and Ruby moved back to Melbourne, and I stayed back in Adelaide just to tidy up the affairs. We sold the restaurants, we succession planned ourselves out, and just made sure that was under control, just to make sure there was the legacy there, which I'm extremely proud of. Every time I go back to Adelaide, some great people and great businesses still going, which is really, really important to me. And I then went back to the drawing board, Joe. I went and said, okay, well, what am I going to do next? I approached Nando's at the time, and there wasn't any roles available, which is fair enough. So as you would know, Joe, being self-employed, I hadn't had a resume for a while. So I went and said, okay, well, how do I do this? So I put the resume together, and then I started applying for roles. So the first round of applications were purely hospitality, because I just thought, do what you know, sort of thing. And I got quite far in a couple of interviews. One I got really, really far in and came second, unfortunately. And after I came second in that role, I decided, you know what, I'm going to give it a crack and try open the net a bit. And when I did that, I went into Seek. I went on to just franchise in general in Melbourne and just started applying for roles. So The Aussie opportunity came up as a franchise manager. Credit to Paul Evans and Glenn Edwards, who actually had that idea in the first place to open up from their end, from Aussie's end, onto Seek to actually open up to franchise, not just to banking and finance. So I was very fortunate I had that window. It was actually something that they trialed for the first time within the Aussie business and then has been replicated since. So they did a really good thing there, and I benefited from there. I'll be completely honest, Joe, I had no idea that Aussie was a franchise. I had no idea that I didn't even know what a mortgage broker was, to be completely honest. I actually thought that everyone worked for Aussie John. I just assumed that, there was a couple of products and they were just branches. So there was a lot of misconception from my end. But yeah, went through the process, quite a serious process, 3 interviews, psychometric testing, and managed to get through the role and get the opportunity, which I'm extremely grateful for. And it's definitely changed my life.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, a great business. And so what you're saying is before you came into that role, they weren't, because we've never spoke on this, right? So I don't actually know the in depth of what you were doing. You were managing the relationship with the franchise businesses, is that right?
Yeah, so it's
Or
quite,
developing and growing.
yeah, so the technical term is a retail business consultant, which is basically the franchise arm of the Aussie business. So the Aussie business has got the mobile channel and the franchise channel. The franchise channel has stores, agreements, and then teams within those stores. So the transferable skills was the franchise skills and the people management and business skills. And that's where I was able to add value through that and then learn the mortgage side and the things that I needed to learn quickly. I had to do the diploma, I had to do the course, I had to go through the same course that the Aussie brokers went through, I had to go through, except with the eyes are on me and the marking and assessments were quite stressful, or stressful for me at the time, obviously, because if you don't pass that course, it's thanks very much, Mr. Shepherd. You can go back to hospitality. So it was definitely a stressful time, but a good time. And went from there and had a very enjoyable time there, Joe. I was there for 11 years, made some amazing friends, built some great businesses, and I would cherish those memories forever.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Lost a few hairs as well whilst you're there.
The hair's mostly lost through Nando's, mate, to be honest. Owning those 5 restaurants and having some of the things that can happen in small business at a bigger scale definitely made me grow up pretty quick, Joe, and made me
Yeah,
lose a
well,
lot of follicles.
yeah, but I think that is a beautiful thing for you coming into what you were doing at Aussie, right? Because I think strict back, whatever you're doing on the front end doesn't matter. Running a business is still running a business. It's still the challenges that it brings outside of work. They're still the same challenges. You know what I mean? If you're having to stay back late or you're having to do stuff out of hours, like the negative flow and effect from that is still the same, right? So you doing what you do is a really good way. You doing what you did there was a really good way for you to understand the businesses that you're working with. Um,
Yeah, 100%. And I'm indebted to those Aussie people that embraced me when I first came in. Shalini Byrne, if you're listening, and Michael Folks, Michael Riley. There's so many. Tina Walter, like all these people that have been around banking and finance for a very, very long time that took the time to spend with me just to explain stuff that once you're in it, you understand it. All the jargon, all the LVRs and LMIs and all that sort of stuff, all that stuff that we just throw around once you're in it, that before you know it, you don't know it, right? So I'm very, very grateful for those people. And then from an Aussie, just franchise point of view, always wanting to be the McDonald's of franchising for mortgage broking. And the Simons did an exceptional job with that. And the leadership team did a great job with that to build that. And it's an exceptional business to build scale and future. And as you know, dozens of people have got their start in this industry thanks to Aussie John and to James Simon. So it was a journey for me that I'm extremely grateful for.
Yeah, and I think they do have really, really good training programs because I've spoke to a lot of franchisees that I've bumped into in the past, and everyone really has like good things to say about it.
And just generous people, generous of spirit.
Yeah, yeah. Now, before we go on to what you did next, I think it's good to pause and go, okay, are you happy that you never became a banker? Not even just to try it.
So just remember what I said. My thought process was, I don't want to be stuck in this pinstripe suit behind a desk and being a corporate ruthless man. So that was my impression of banking. And I'm glad I didn't turn into that. I'm glad I'm in third party, which means I can, obviously deal with brokers and look after customers. And I'm also extremely happy that I'm not stuck behind the desk, Joe. I can work where the laptop is and visit brokers and travel and do marketing activations. And there's a lot of variety of role, which makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, I wanted to be a banker as well. I don't know if I told you this. That was my goal. I was like, when I worked at Hayes and I was recruiting them, I was like, I mean, a lot of them would say you should come and do this, and I kind of was like, maybe I should do this. And then obviously I didn't, and I'm sort of glad about it as well because yeah, I think the stuff that we kind of discussed, the ruthlessness of it, like, but also not really being close to that owner or that ownership or feeling like what you're working in is somewhat yours. I think that's what's really a good draw to this industry that we work in. Now, your biggest transition was bringing what you knew from Aussie into Nectar, which, you know, coming from that business that everything is brand related, moving into Nectar, which is also very brand related as well. You know, you had a lot to offer. So what did that look like?
Yeah, so the Nectar journey's been absolutely fantastic, Joe, and it's, obviously I wouldn't have got the next opportunity without the Aussie franchise background, but now I'm in the aggregation space, which is also another ball game and something to learn. So it's been a steep learning curve, but it's also been nice to be able to add value through the structures and experiences and development and training that I experienced with Aussie and those businesses. So Steve Harris and Andrew Stevens and Ailish O'Callaghan, we work extremely closely together to build out the Nectar brand and the Nectar branded offering. But also we've got your bring your own brand, right? So we've got our business owners that run under their own companies, and some of them you wouldn't even expect or know that they're part of Nectar aggregation. So I've loved the variety of role and the transition, but my job now is to build, particularly Victoria, Tasmania, up to the right level and to keep building those businesses while supporting the national initiatives and the brokers that I'm supporting as individual business owners. So it's almost like Back to the Future, Joe. I feel like I'm back when I very first started at Aussie and trying to build up the awareness and brand presence of Nectar Mortgages Group, particularly in Victoria, Tasmania.
Beautiful. And what fires you up most about what you're doing now?
It's all about the people, Joe. It really is. It's about trying to make sure that we give our current brokers the best options, best support, and best foundations, and then allowing potential brokers the avenue to build with our aggregation services. That's what really, really excites me. I also believe we're a very well kept secret. Like, we're such a well kept secret. Like, Nectar Mortgages Group is so diverse and so able to grow and develop around your business and give back to your life. And Steve Harris, our general manager, and Paul Newell, our chairman. Paul Newell, he's a chairman, but he runs his own team too. He's currently a broker still on the tools, a team of more than 20 plus brokers. So there's always that broker lens, which is extremely refreshing. I remember my first board meeting where we were in there, and Paul straight away knew the stuff straight away because he's on the tools all the time. It's really, really refreshing place to be, and I'm just excited about what we can achieve all together as a team, but also develop the current businesses.
Yeah, beautiful. And is it fair to say you predominantly do experienced brokers, or is there a mixture of new businesses that you guys are registering as well?
Yeah, so we do new industry as well. We do have the Nectar Academy in conjunction with Mr. Mentor, and we facilitate that to allow people that do have business experience and the right capital and right acumen to build a business within brokering. And there are limited spots on that, but we do make sure that we give people every chance to succeed. We do have current head licensees that have diverse teams and have larger volume. And then we do have single operators. So very much a mixed bag, Joe, but definitely
Let's
a one-stop
let's
shop.
Yeah, and let's say Jimmy Shepherd rocks up after his 5 years, sorry, his 5 restaurants at Nando's and says, "Do you know what? I wanted to be a banker in the past. I studied it a bit. You know, I was passionate about it. I like finance, is what I'm trying to say. Would you, bias taken away, would you be considered as someone who would be taken onto this academy, right? Because you obviously have those fundamentals there.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. It's more around so the basic background of knowledge, skills, and attributes, and then the business acumen side, 100%. The financial backing and drive is, I suppose, the main other two bits to that, and being able to relearn or go back to school, I suppose, which not everyone can do. Adult learning can be challenging. So just making sure that whoever we bring on understands it's not going to be completely easy, but if you hang in there, this business and this industry can really give back to your life. In hindsight, and hindsight's a beautiful thing, Joe, I really wish I had owned 5 broker books rather than 5 restaurants, because at least I'd still be having a bit of passive income. But anyway, it's a different story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, can you walk into a Nando's in Adelaide though and sit down and get free food?
No, I can't. I can't. And that actually brings back a bit of an emotional story. So when we moved back to Melbourne, my daughter at the time was still too young to comprehend what the difference between the Nandos were. And she would see the Nando sign run in and not recognize someone run out crying. So it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, Joe. So yeah, she was used to her free chips and chicken.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess looking to the future, right? Like, because your role, you obviously got a lot behind the doors that you're not going to share with me, which is okay. But like, what do you see your role growing like in Nectar, and how do you see the next 12 months to be for what you guys are planning?
Yeah, so Joe, we're pretty transparent. So for us now, it's really just ensuring every one of our current brokers and current head licensees are getting the value. We're a license agreement, so it's a month by month agreement. So either party can terminate with 30 days notice. We don't do it unless there's something untoward, compliance, etc. But it does mean that the onus is on us to deliver value every month to our brokers, head licensees, and partners. So that for us means every day we have to wake up and be better than yesterday, right? Which is not like, it sounds cliche, but it's true. Because at any time, someone can say, you know what, Jimmy, it's been really, really fun, but here's my notice, right? So that's a different edge, and making sure we do that. So that's number one. Number two is just really ensuring that as we grow with the right people. And it sounds so cliche, but we have a no dickhead policy, Joe. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope I'm allowed to say this on your podcast. Good man.
So whatever you want.
But we don't care about the volume and what you do and whatever. If you're not a good person at heart and we think you're going to damage our culture and our brand, you're not, we don't have a home for you, basically. And that's something that's easy to say, hard to do. It's something that we try to keep each other accountable for. And that's something Steve Harris really drives. So that's that from there. And then ensuring that the life cycle of our brokers is taken care of. So what I mean by that is people that want to come to the end of their tenure, so whether they want to retire or semi-retire or transition, helping them to do that with a right value, right multiple, and with grace, and then allowing for new people to come in. So that's probably the whole ecosystem, if I can talk about that.
Yeah, I think that succession planning bit that you talked about is very important, right? Because from my jobs in the past, I've spoke to brokers that have come to the what should have been the natural end of their career, and they've romanticized the idea of having their son or their brother come into the business, and it's not happened. And that book, the value of the business has been on a downward trajectory because of that. So like, I think having that process mapped out with the people before it gets to the point when they're ready to do that is really important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm fortunate that I had that experience with Aussie. I've been through a lot of those transition cycles, seeing what's worked, what hasn't worked, made a lot of mistakes myself, and been able to, I suppose, learn and adapt from those. So that's where I can add value back to the business and what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, beautiful. Um, all right, well, let's wrap up, mate. Just what before you go, tell me one thing that you've got yourself in the pipeline for the year that you're really happy for.
That's a good question, Joe. That Nectar New Broker Academy is my baby, to be honest. The Mr. Mentor partnership and working with our mentors and giving people a chance is very important to me. So that's probably my thing that I'm really passionate, excited about, and really grateful for the partnership with Mr. Mentor with Melissa and Brett. They've been fantastic and really bought into my vision and where we're heading with that. That's my number one rock from that point of view, from a selfish point of view. From a more generalistic business point of view, I need to get the VicTaz market up to where it needs to get to. So there's a lot of work to be done, Joe, and particularly to try and get the head count up to the right level, but more in the right way. Businesses making money, wanting to be here for the right reasons, solid business plans, good marketing, and being able to build scale within those businesses. So that's not really specific, but I hope that answers your
No,
question.
I get it because like you can register as many brokers as you want under the brand, right? But unless they're brokers that are going to come in and they're going to be firing, it's a terrible experience for them. Like I've seen it in the past, brokers come in, they've only got the 6 months of capital, not the 1 year. Like they think it's going to be easy because they've got this network and that network. And the reality is, not everyone's ready to purchase or lend money at that period of time. So it can be really tough. So what I'm trying to say is like, you have to, when you grow in a business and you're hitting those headcount growth, you still have to do it with care because you
Yeah,
want to
100%.
make sure that the people that are your long-term highest generators are still getting the same level of service that they did when they come in as this number one solo broker new to the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And we want people to come in, and even if they do leave us, we want them to leave with dignity, and we want them to leave looking back fondly on their Nectar time. Hopefully, they don't leave us, but if they do, they do in the right way. We also want to make sure that we Yeah, we're not used car salespeople. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing by everyone.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, it goes back to you're always solving someone's problems or trying to make their dreams come true, not just trying to flog them a piece of shit that they don't need, right?
That's it, Joe.
Yeah. No dickheads.
Yep.
No shit being flogged. That's the rule, all right?
Yep, that's the two. Tick, tick.
Lovely. All right. Well, mate, if I ever decide that I want to open a Nando's at some point myself, just expect the phone to be ringing, all right?
Why don't you take you there one day, Joe, and see if I can leverage on some old relationships and get you on the grill.
Yeah.
We can do
Or
we can
maybe
do
scare me away.
no, we can do the challenge with you. You can see how fast you can cut the chicken to 8 or whatever.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see how we go.
Yeah, mate. All right, mate. Well, look, really good to chat to you. Thanks for jumping on and doing this, and we'll speak soon. All right.
Thanks so much, Joe, and appreciate the time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Bye.
See you, mate.